kind of move between the view graph and myself. Since I see that you are recording now, let me confirm that yes, you are. I'm going to begin immediately. And at any moment, you can use the text chat to say something. Okay. First, I'd like to welcome everyone here. It's really good of you to come to this meeting where I think we are here to discuss interesting and also important things. The presentation that I'm going to give is going to be very similar to the presentation I gave to the Transhumanism and the Spirituality Conference hosted by the Mormon Transhumanist Association on October 1, I believe. Not identical, very similar, but I think of the present only Lincoln has heard my presentation before. I don't think the videos of the Transhumanist and Spirituality Conference are online yet, so that this is going to be, this is great. I understand. Not stay long. These are coming this week. This is what I did, I recorded presentation for most people on video. First, something about myself. I'm not going to read all that is on graphs, which is in just 2 or 3 minutes from now. I'm not one is doing one of those people who were raised in a very religious community. Just recommend scientific you, Fred and Linda, training, and I am a transhumanist. Okay. I am a member of the Mormon Transhumanist Association. I am a member of the Society for Universal Immortality. Like this, there is no concept of membership in place recorded files on screen, the Cosmos Confederation, because they would start playing immediately. That would interfere. If there is a concept of membership, then I would like to consider myself as a member of both. I'm also one of the founders of the late lamented Order of Cosmic Engineers. I see late lamented because it has not been very active recently. I don't have a concept of supernatural. I am interested in spirituality, but I'd like to explain everything in scientific terms. And since I have a scientific training, I know that space, time, and the fabric of reality may be very, very complex, and perhaps in this complexity there is a room for some spiritual visions, and I'm very open to natural magic in the sense of the third law of Sir Arthur. I'm not going to go into details of what is spirituality and what is religion. We could say that perhaps spirituality is a weaker form of religion. Perhaps we can say something else. I'm not very interested in words. I just like to say that in some sense I'm very interested in religion, but I'd like to see only the good part of religion, without the bad part, without the dogma, without the intolerance, and without the holy wars that have done so much damage in our history. And I'd like to read aloud a very good quote from the article of Bill Bambridge, 2009, Religion for a Galactic Civilization, when he says that I have suggested that only transcendent, impractical, radical religion can take us to the stars. We need a new spaceflight social movement capable of giving a sense of transcendent purpose to dominant sectors of our society. And heavens are a sacred realm that we should enter in order to transcend that. It's really too bad that Bill Bambridge is not with us today. Actually, I haven't heard from him for several months, because I'm sure he would have had many interesting contributions to make. There are many reasons why we are almost addicted to religion. And I think the most important reason is death. We fear death. We fear our own death. We are very sad when our loved ones die. We want to see them again. There are other reasons but they are not so important. The really important reason why people constantly look for religion is the fear of death and the sadness for death and the hope to see other people after death in an afterlife again. That's why I think that a mimetically strong religion needs to offer resurrection besides immortality. Of course, we want to do that through science and technology, but I do think that this is a very important point. And I think that in order to really reach the people out there, we must explicitly contemplate the possibility of an afterlife, which is probably not going to be a natural afterlife, but it could be an engineered afterlife, engineered resurrection of the dead. I'm going to come back to this point later because this is very important from my point of view. These are the two principles I believe in. Sir Arthur, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, and the really immortal words of William Shakespeare, there are more things in heaven and earth that are contemplated in your philosophy. These two sentences really summarize my own position. And of course, everyone here, I hope so at least, is familiar with the philosophy of William James, and I'm sure he would have very interesting things to say tonight. He's not with us, but perhaps he will be with us again sometime in the future. This is the end of the book of Ray Kurzweil, The Age of Spiritual Machines, and I think this sentence encapsulates what is really the right attitude. He's speculating about the end of the universe, and he says, so will the universe end in a big crunch or in infinite expansion of dead stars? He mentions other things that could happen, but he thinks that the primary issue is not what we know about science now, but the fate of the universe is a decision yet to be made, one which we will intelligently consider when the time is right. Now, many people disagree with Ray Kurzweil. I don't always agree with him myself, but I often thought that this sentence represents the right transhumanist attitude that we should have in order to build the future, because the future is really something that we build. Since I gave this presentation at the Transhumanism and Spirituality Conference, I have become aware of a new worldview proposed by the neuroscientist David Eagleman in his book of fiction about the afterlife. I haven't read the book yet, but as soon as I have become aware of it, I have ordered it immediately on Amazon, and I hope to receive it anyway, any day now. Possibilianism is a middle exploratory ground between religion and science, which is based on the notion of possibilities. We are not interested in committing to any particular story, like the story proposed to any specific religion, but we are very comfortable with holding multiple ideas in mind and exploring new unconsidered possibilities. As soon as I started to read the work of David Eagleman, I immediately started to call myself a possibilian. So I do call myself many things. I call myself a transhumanist. I call myself a cosmist. I call myself a possibilian. I am a member of the MTA. I call myself a universal immortalist. I call myself a friend of Terra Sem. I call myself many things. And I do believe that all these things, which are the things that we are going to discuss today, are not incompatible, but we are actually saying very similar things, perhaps with different words. And I think one of the objectives of this meeting is to find some kind of common ground and perhaps think of some unified strategy for outreach. We think our ideas are good. We think our ideas are very good, and we want to offer our ideas to as many people as possible. And what we have here, we have many what I'm calling trans-religious groups. Like the Society for Universal Immortalism. I look forward very much to my presentation. Like TerraSem, like the Mormon Transhumanist Association, of which I wish to say that even if I have never been a member of the Mormon Church, I am a member of the MTA, and I think the Mormon Transhumanist Association, in terms of the quality of the community that I have managed to build, is probably the most interesting organization around. I think Lincoln and the other people in the MTA have done really a wonderful work in putting the MTA together with a strong sense of community, and this should really be one of our goals. Let me monitor the text chat one moment to see if someone wants to say something. Not yet. Okay, the Cosmist Manifesto of Ben, I'm not going to say much because we are going to listen to the talk of Ben later, but I do consider all the book, and especially the chapter that I wrote together with him on the 10 Cosmist Conviction, as a basic part of this talk. I have found in Ben's book even one single word with which I disagree. Now, is transhumanism a religion? Of course, I would never say this on many of the transhumanist mailing lists, but the short answer is yes. The longer answer is that transhumanism is not a religion because it's based on science instead of supernatural belief, but it can replace religion because it can offer the same hope and the same energy to get things really done. And I think nobody has said it better than Robert, who is here with us today. I'm not going to read that aloud, but read that sentence, and especially that as a religious system, transhumanism can tap into the basic human desire for transcendence, a meaningful purpose, a sense of community, and the hope for life after death. Okay, I'm going to rush very fast toward the end of this presentation. I have put together this thing called the Turing Church, which is not really an organization. At this moment is a mailing list and a discussion group. I think most of the people here is on the mailing list, and I would like to encourage all others to join the mailing list, because we have a lot of interesting things to discuss. Why it's called the Turing Church? Because of the Turing Church conjecture in mathematics, which very simply put says that what one computer can do, also another computer can do. I'm oversimplifying, of course. And many of us think that this applies to human thinking. Our minds are complex machines, but machines nonetheless. This was said recently by Randall Kuhn in a workshop on mind uploading. So if we accept the Turing Church conjecture, Mike, how do I join the mailing list? I'm going to invite you to the mailing list. There is some mind uploading research going on. It's not going to achieve sure thing. I will also invite you, Siren. Mind uploading research is not going to achieve any practical result next week. Is not going to achieve any practical results next year. Here there is one person who may disagree with this statement, and this person is Martin, because Martin has a quite different strategy in mind to achieve mind uploading in a certain sense. But most of the people who are into hard mind uploading research based on explicitly reading out the informational content of the brain, I think they will agree with me that results are not for tomorrow, but I think we will see operational mind uploading technology within this century. At that moment, we will be able to live indefinitely in non-biological bodies. We will be able to make backup copies of ourselves. And if things go as they should go, no, let me say that better. If we will make things go as they should go, future civilization of uploads will colonize the galaxy and the universe, and perhaps at some point in the future they will be able to resurrect the dead by copying them to the future. And I'm going to mention some strategies that have been proposed for that. And perhaps we will also be able to create synthetic realities inhabited by thinking minds. And perhaps we ourselves are thinking minds in a synthetic, computationally generated reality. And this simulation hypothesis concept is perhaps related very much to the concept of resurrection. Right, we are really thinking here of a meta-religion. In the possibilian sense, at least myself, I'm not really uncomfortable with holding different ideas in mind at the same time. I'm just interested in meaning. I'm interested in sense of wonder, and I'm interested in personal immortality and the hope of resurrection based on science. Okay, let's not go into technology details. We know that there is a lot of research in hard mind uploading based on explicitly reading out the information biologically encoded in the brain. And I think it is feasible. It's not feasible now. Maybe it will not be feasible in 2050, but it's something compatible with the laws of physics. And so I do consider it as just another engineering problem. It is a very complex engineering problem, but it is an engineering problem. And I think as an engineering problem, it will be solved sometimes in the future. And even non-destructive, very high-resolution brain scanning is something feasible in principle, and perhaps it will be also achieved someday. Even if most of the candidate technologies that are being proposed today rely on destructive scanning on the brain, we may be able to achieve first uploading by destructive scanning, then uploading by non-destructive scanning, and something that we might call soft uploading, which is basically the theories of Martin Rothblatt and Bill Bambridge. How does that work? Martin is going to say it much better than me, but basically instead of reading the information in the brain, it is the brain to write information outside by assembling mind files, like in the Life Note and Cyberwave systems, with the hope that some future technologies may be able to use this information in order to bring the original person back to life, using something that might be called a me program, a generic model of a human mind that can act as the firmware and the operating system for a mind. Let me go one moment to read the text chat. Okay, no new comments. Well, this substrate independent minds is the name of a set of workshops that we are having. Many are virtual workshops here. They are fully documented on the website carboncopies.org, and we have most of the videos available on the Teleaccelerate website. When? Well, from some point of view, I don't really care about when. I don't think uploading is for next week. I do think uploading will be achieved during this century. I do not think that, how to say, physical, hard mind uploading will be achieved during my own lifetime. Unfortunately, I do not think so. For the people of our generation, what can we do? Cryonics and brain preservation, of course, and personality capture based on the Bambridge-Rothblatt approach, coupled with DNA storage, either in physical form or in soft copy format. We may be able, even the people of our own generation, may be able to use a combination of this method to reach a future where mind uploading is an operational technology. I'm not going to read this loud. It was a half joke that I put on my website about giving permission to Google to use all the information stored in my Gmail account, all information not only about myself but also about other people, to improve the quality of the reconstruction of my personality in the year 2060. Of course, in combination with other information about me that can be scattered all over the web. I have given this permission to Google, signed it. Many other people have also given their permission with a blog post of the same format. Okay, I'm going to close with ideas about resurrection and or simulation. I think the two concepts are very much related to each other. These final remarks are based on an article that you can find on my blog. My blog is giulioprisco.blogspot.com. Space-time engineering and future magic will permit achieving by scientific means most of the promises of religion, and perhaps eventually we will be able to resurrect the dead by copying them to the future. This is a concept that many transhumanists find very difficult to swallow. It seems that we are completely abandoning the rational approach of transhumanism, and it seems that we are really entering the field of superstition and irrational religion. But I don't think so. I think this is not superstition, this is science. It's not today's science, of course, but it's something that eventually future science will be able to achieve. How? Someone who has written a lot about technological resurrection is Hans Moravec, and I would like to thank Robert for making me aware of the very important role of Hans Moravec to develop these ideas. He is never very clear. He never says too explicitly what he means. But you know, by looking in his writings, we can find enough evidence that he does consider both the simulation hypothesis and technological resurrection as things that future post-human civilization will be able to achieve somehow. And in his book, A Robot of 1999, I believe, he ends saying, perhaps we are most likely to find ourselves reconstituted in the minds of super-intelligent successors. I think there is an important remark to make here. I mean, we should not think that a non-thinking computer will simulate us, because any kind of computational system with the ability to simulate in detail something as complex as ourselves should not be considered as a simple machine. It should be considered as a person in an extended sense, not a mere machine, but a transcendent mind. I think everyone will be familiar with the omega point theory of Frank Tipler, where he proposes a possible mechanism for resurrection of the dead. His mechanism is something having to do with steering the gravitational collapse of the universe in such a way as to make an infinite amount of computational cycles available before the physical end of the universe, or in other words, to make an infinite amount of subjective time available to those who will inhabit the universe in the far future. Tipler's ideas have been criticized very much by the scientific community on the basis of what is currently known about cosmology. But I think what we should retain of Tipler's message is just that our success may be able to engineer conditions suitable for the emergence of an omega point. We don't know enough to speculate exactly what they will do. In the spirit of possibilianism, we may contemplate the possibility that they might be able to do something, and they may be able to restore to consciousness all sentient beings of the past, perhaps to a brute force computational emulation of the past history of the universe, so that after that we may wake up in a simulated environment with many of the features assigned to the afterlife world by major religions. There are other mechanisms for resurrection that have been proposed in the literature, very often in the science fiction literature, and I like very much this proposal in the novel The Light of Other Days by Arthur Clarke and Stephen Baxter, which is not a scientific theory, is just an idea which is not incompatible with the science that we know today. And the theory is very simple, that the fabric of space-time may be full of micro wormholes that connect every point of space-time with every other point of space-time. And as soon as we develop the ability to use these naturally occurring wormholes to scan space-time, then we may be able to upload the dead of past ages to the future by copying them from their past to our future. And if there are no suitable micro wormholes occurring in nature, then perhaps we can make them by engineering. In the spirit of Ray Kurzweil quote that I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation. Now, there is a different approach to the possibility of technological resurrection, which is to ask ourselves whether we ourselves live in a simulation. And this is another one of the 10 cosmic convictions in Ben's book. We will develop interoperable synthetic realities or virtual world able to support intelligence. Some human uploads will choose to live in virtual worlds, and at the end there will not be much difference between physical realities and synthetic realities. And some thinkers, especially Hans Moravec and also Nick Bostrom, think that we may actually live in a simulation. Let's not forget that a computer able to run simulated realities with conscious observers is not a machine, but a transcendent mind. And this is actually what Bishop George Berkeley used to think, that the reality we perceive exists in the mind of that supreme and wise spirit in whom we live, move, and have our being. And this supreme spirit is a God. Now, I have said that the supernatural has no room in my worldview. I think reality is fully understandable and explainable by science. But I think it's also important to realize that if we live in a simulated reality which is being computed somehow by a higher layer and level of reality, the supernatural can well happen in our own reality, because whoever is running the simulation which is our reality is not able to violate the laws of their physics, but they can, if they want, choose to violate the laws of our physics. Why? Because our physics has been is simulated by their own computational systems. So in a simulation there can be something like a miracle, and it would be right, they do have access to the root directory, as Ivan says. If our reality is a simulation, miracles are something that can happen. For example, according to our best scientific understanding, it seems that when someone is dead, he's just dead, and is going to stay dead. But if we live in a simulation, the transcendent mind can choose to copy us to a new simulation. And this is the conclusions that I would like to offer. We may be living in a simulation performed by a transcendent mind in whom we live, move, and have our being. If this is the case, we live in a universe which permits resurrection of the dead. And after our death, the transcendent mind may choose to copy us to another simulation. If this is not the case yet, that is, if we live in the original physical reality, then future transcendent minds may be able to copy us from the past and upload us to one of their simulations, as Hans Moravec used to think. So what I want to say is that really there is not a fundamental difference between two concepts that seem very different from each other. The concept of technological resurrection and the concept of resurrection by living in a simulation, they may mean the same thing, or I'm sorry, they may mean the same thing, or at least there is a very important overlap between these two concepts. Now, I have a short movie which lasts only 1 minute, and I'd like to show this movie to you, which is an illustration of this concept. We're going to start the game of life, and we see there is a pattern, and this pattern is going to die. So now I'm making a copy of the pattern. Let's see what happens after that. So after I made a copy of the pattern, the simulation restarts, and as is evident from the rules of the life game, the pattern dies. After, since I have made a copy, I can put the copy in a much more friendly environment to this specific pattern, and in this new universe, this pattern can stay around forever. And the analogy is very clear, and I don't really have to explain it. So I'd like to thank you very much for your attention. This was the last part of my presentation. And I really look very much forward to hearing your questions. And you can comment either in text chat or just switch the microphone on and say something. Thank you for listening, Robert. Okay, so we're going to have a discussion later. So if there is no question,
Giulio, can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, I may as well. Hello.
Hello.
I'm speaking too loudly.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask something. You said you were a member of the Mormon Transhumanist Association. Apparently, you can be a member of that without being in the Mormon Church.
I believe that I am a member of the MTA, but I have never been a member of the Mormon Church. As a matter of fact, before meeting Lincoln and the other friends in the MTA, I didn't really know very well what the Mormons were. And only later I learned that they should really be called the LDS Church.
LDS Church, right.
But I think, and I would like to ask Lincoln to confirm, that I am indeed a member of the MTA.
Okay.
Thanks, Lincoln. I'm actually a voting member of the MTA. Okay, let's see the text chat. By the way, you guys can also speak to ask a question or make comments. So Xaira is asking whether there is some movements that are already attempting to build digital databases of individuals, and the answer is yes, especially Martine Rothblatt, who is with us. She's really the main spokesperson of this movement, and her foundation is running 2 different projects aimed at building digital databases of individuals. Maybe Martine will say something about this later. Xaira says also, is there some movement, this is Robert, how do you think those who believe in traditional conceptions of resurrection will respond to yours? I think it really depends who. You know, traditional, like most Christians or most Muslims, I don't think they will relate very positively to this specific conception of resurrection. I don't really hope to win many converts in the world of traditional religions, but again, you never know. Let experiment decide. On the other hand, I think if we think of new spirituality and new between brackets religion, and I'm explicitly referring to what's usually called New Age, I think that in that environment, our non-traditional conception of resurrection may be received much better. Okay, Remy, his questioner asked at the end of the debate, what to do now? What are the planned practices of the Turing Church? And I don't have the foggiest idea of that. That's exactly what we are discussing in the mailing list. By the way, I want to mention that there is also another mailing list, which is a very interesting one, started by Remy Sussan, which is called Hero Hacking. We don't discuss exactly the same things, but there is an important overlap. Other question of Robert. Do you hope to add them to your movement without them rejecting their traditional goals? And my answer here is no. Let's not forget the possibilianism idea. You can hold different streams of thoughts in mind, even if they are not completely coherent to each other. And in my presentation, I also mentioned William James, who said very much the same thing. Sometimes is even a good thing to allow oneself to have thoughts which are not 100% coherent. Okay, Jesus was a transhumanist and wants you to get cybernetic implants. That will be a very good bumper sticker or t-shirt decoration. Okay, I think there are no other questions at this moment. So first, I'd like to ask Fred and Linda to stop the recording.